You may not have heard of any of that, but you probably heard of Gustav Klimt. And if you don't know his name, you certainly recognize this picture. It's on everything from cocktail napkins, toilet seat covers, calendars. It's everywhere. It's called The Kiss. And he was heavily influenced by the Bolognese style. He, of course, operated out of Austria. Now, in addition, the Bolognese style depended very heavily on mathematics, using the formula pi. Anybody in here a mathematician? Okay, you're all familiar with pi r squared, things like that. And pi is a way of basically developing proportion. And in this case, I won't go into it, but you can start with a square and then get the next, the square being this, and the next rectangular form there is perfectly in proportion to that according to the mathematic formula of pi. So when you apply pi to art and that sort of thing, you wind up with a very formal way of composing things. Now there's a very famous vase. Everybody recognize who that is? Anybody? George Clooney, yes. Now that's George's face, but what we've superimposed over it, and it'll be hard to see it from a distance, we've imposed pi over it, and we've rearranged his face according to pi. And what you'll notice is that his nose is longer, his eyes are further apart. In terms of classical beauty, the second George Clooney is better looking than the first, according to pi. Okay? Now, that profile of a head is fully proportionate according to pi. Okay? And when you apply that to architecture, you have things like the pyramids. The Egyptians used it. The Parthenon in Greece is entirely divided up according to pi. In other words, they just didn't just say, oh, we'll make this long and that high. They did it all mathematically. Perfect proportion. When you get into painting, if you look at this Renaissance painting, see how the triangle is used to compose the composition, and also the star, the five-pointed star. And that determines where all the various elements of that composition are located. So, the Verone style employs that. I'm just going to show you some quick examples here. The bottom and the upper right are Bolognese murals. On the upper left is Egyptian hieroglyphic painting. And you can see a relationship there. You can see how the Bolognese were fascinated by Egyptian art. You can also see that these pieces, even though they were done in the 1870s, have a kind of a timeless and somewhat contemporary appearance. But they're actually 150 years old. And then look at the head of Nefertiti. This is a Roman funeral painting, which also influenced Greek iconography. Now I'm showing you all of these things so that you can have a deeper appreciation for where we're going with all of this. These, of course, are Byzantine mosaics. Some of you may have seen these yourselves. These happen to be located in Italy. This is the Church of St. Clement, which just happens to be your pastor's favorite church in Rome. And if you've ever been called into his office because you were naughty, he has a picture of that cross on his office wall. Now that and a dime will buy you a cup of coffee, but I just wanted you to know that he's familiar with this stuff. Now, we're going to skip up to the present and show you the Abbey of St. Hildegard over in Germany. This is the Mother Abbess. They make their living by growing grapes, making wine and bakery goods and so forth. Their abbey is a prime example of Bolognese art. in Germany. And all of it was designed by the disciples of Peter Lenz. There's the exterior, and even though that's a Romanesque building, do you see how the materials resemble the materials of your church? Here the sisters are going to the chapter room. She's a mitred abbess, which means she carries the crozier just like a bishop would. She's receiving the vows here. Now, it's hard for you to see in that picture, but the capitals on here are inspired by the lotus blossom, which of course you find in Egyptian art. These are computer-generated images of some of the earlier art that was in the monastery, some of which was lost after World War II. But here again, you see very well-ordered choirs of angels, Christ, the Lamb of God, with the sheep on both sides. Christ depicted as the Pantocrator, Christ over the world. This is the monastic choir. We'll just quickly run through these. But you see how the paintings are not like pictures hung on the wall. They're fully integrated into the architecture, between the windows and so forth. This is a wonderful painting of Adam and Eve wearing crowns because they were the king and the queen of creation before the fall. If you look at that tree of the knowledge of good and evil, then look at these Egyptian fans. You see the influence there? Again, back at the monastery, the sanctuary. That's looking from the monastic choir to an image of Mary inside of the mandorla, with choirs of angels all arranged around her, and angels up on the ceiling. The ceiling in this church is wood, just like yours. Now, once upon a time, it had very subtle stenciling, but all that has faded over the last 100 years. Here again, images of angels, angels with harps. These are cartoons, actual watercolor drawings of angels. You're familiar with Art Deco?
Yes.
You see how this style influenced the Art Deco movement? It looks like something off the Chrysler building, if you're familiar with that building in New York. Here again, cartoons of the murals at the monastery. And notice that the windows do not have stained glass. It's leaded glass, but those are done that way so that a lot of light comes into the room to illuminate the worship space and the paintings. Natural daylight. Does that sound familiar? Yeah. All right. Again, all of this is the Voronese style. Now, let's get real close to home. Conception Abbey. Who's been to Conception Abbey? Okay. Conception Abbey has the largest collection of Voronese paintings in the United States. How did that happen? Abbot Frohen, the founder of Conception Abbey, sent 3 of the monks over to Boron to live and study and learn how to do Voronese murals. Then he brought them back to Conception, Missouri, and the monks set out painting the whole basilica. And they taught the other monks how to do it. So all the paintings that are in Conception Abbey were painted by the monks. And you know they've done a major restoration there now. And some of the decorative painting was eliminated, but all of the murals are restored. So here's an example. Now here are all of the Voronese paintings. All events in the life of Mary, St. Benedict, and so forth. These are individual clips of some of those paintings. And you're going to see these in a few minutes here as examples. There you have the flight into Egypt. You have the wise men visiting Mary and Joseph and Jesus. Here's the Nativity. But you see how the paintings are done with, they're mostly done in profile. And that's where that Egyptian influence comes from. Because Egyptian art is either facing forward or it's facing this way. And most of the time in the Bornese paintings, they're profiles. And they're also against very rich backgrounds. Beautiful cobalt blue, fields of stars, things like that. Gold leaf. Okay, that's it. There we go. The Bornese style also includes furniture, candlesticks, things like that.